Hey, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to find your niche. Now, having a niche in photography is absolutely vital if you want to be a professional. I don't think it matters whether you're in the smallest village in the world or in some huge metropolitan city. You must have a niche. By having a niche for myself, I work in a very small city, and there aren't enough clients in this city to support my niche at all. There's probably 3 people here and I work with one of them. However, if I didn't have a niche, I wouldn't have all the clients that I do have who all come from out of town and also out of the country. So having a niche is so important. It can be daunting. I've got a whole video about this. I'll pop a link in the description. But you need to have a niche to make it as a professional photographer. Nobody's hiring average photographer who does jack of all tradey type work to shoot the next night campaign. You need to nail it down, drill right down into it and find a niche. But finding that niche is not as straightforward as you'd think. For years I thought that I was a music photographer. I was a band photographer, that's what I did. I worked with musicians, I worked with bands, I did cool shoots, we did live work, we went on tour with bands. I really enjoyed it. It didn't enjoy me. Or maybe both, vice versa. I'm not sure, but it didn't go well for me. For me, I love doing it, but there's some major drawbacks of working with creatives like myself. One is that they're always late, they never have much money, they're always losing things. I've had bands not turn up for shoots, they've lost their tour bus, they've lost their drummer, they've not seen the lead singer for 3 days. You go on tour and you might not have a hotel for 3 nights, you're sleeping on a bus, and it's incredibly debaucherous, which sounds fun, and it is fun for 1 night or 2 nights, but 7 nights in, it's not so fun. And there's all these different things around it which just don't work. So for me, I suddenly realised that although I love this genre and I like looking at music photography, for me being in that environment, it's not good. So I moved on to portraits. I was like, yes, this is better. These people, they don't lose their car in the morning. So we started working on this, but then I still found it incredibly stressful. And I found it stressful because I didn't have complete control over the subject. And, you know, I'd be a fool to think that I'd ever be in that position. So for me, it just wasn't working, but I didn't understand it because I love taking portraits. I spent 8 years doing it. And once you're that far into something, you start to get this idea that you need to really stay in there because you put so much time into it that you're going to lose all of that time. But if you've gone really far down like I did and you suddenly realise it's not for you, most of the skills are transferable, and luckily I transferred it to food photography. Now I realised very quickly that photographing people was not for me, not because I didn't like photographing people or the people, but because I didn't like the lack of control. So I needed a still life subject, but I also needed to have a passion within that. So food photography was the only still life subject that I could really go into and really enjoy photographing. So now I have a subject which I've got control over, which I don't have to worry about losing one of its mates, although sometimes I do snuffle some of the food. I don't have to worry about it being difficult, being upset on the day, being hyperactive on the day, whatever it may be. Food is just there for me, which is nice. And it works for me, but it wasn't what I thought my niche was going to be. And I think the point of this video is that just because it's a thing that you love at the moment, it doesn't mean that that's your niche. As well as going, what do you like to photograph? You also need to look at how you work, who you are, and how that subject relates to you. Because for me, if I'd have just gone, well, my passion is music photography, I'd be a nervous wreck by now. Whereas by kind of looking at it in a more global aspect and going, well, I like this, but also I need the following input in my work. I need to have the following things for my career path. It led me down the path of food photography. And thankfully, I'm much happier because of it. And because I've gone into such a small niche within food photography itself, rather than just going, I shoot food, I shoot a very specific kind of food. Not so much the kind of food, but more the way I shoot it. It means I've got a niche, which means I'm in demand, not just where I live, but also around Europe, around the UK. And going into that extra detail has really helped my career. If I'd have been a general photographer, you know, you have the jobbing photographers in your area who go, oh, we do some commercial work, we do some portraits, we do some events. If I'd have stayed doing that sort of thing, I would not be in the position I'm in now. It was terrifying to make that jump, but having made it, I would recommend it to absolutely anyone, especially if you're in a small town, because you're never going to break out of a small town by being a jack of all trades, but you will break out of it by being a specialist and being very niche. I hope this video is of use to you. If you do enjoy the content, do hit subscribe. I'm still doing daily content throughout September, and then I'm going to come up with a more manageable work schedule because daily content's quite hard. I'll see you all next time.